call me Mystic Mac because I predict these things.
UFC Fight Night Paris takes place this Saturday, and I'm going to run you guys through all of my picks for all of the fights. If you're looking for a little bit more in-depth analysis and info on why I'm picking the fighters, more background info on each of them, check out my channel. I do dedicated videos to every single one of these fights, so don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate the comments, the likes, the views I've been getting as of late, and no further ado, let's get into it. We got 14 fights on this card, so gonna be a long night. So starting out, we have Shauna Bannon versus Sam Hughes. I'm gonna go with Sam Hughes in this one. I'm just not convinced in Shauna Bannon. You know, she's 7-1. Her one loss to Bruna Brazil. World champion grappler and kickboxer from what I've heard, but you know, she is very technical. She does things very well. She's got very good ground game off of her back, transitioning between sweeps, arm bars, triangles, things like that. She's got the karate stance on the feet. She just doesn't have a lot of finishing potential. Doesn't carry a lot of pop in her strikes. Looking to throw that side kick out there. I just feel like she doesn't have a lot of physicality behind her, the technical aspects of her game, and I think Sam Hughes is going to be able to deal with her. I think Sam Hughes, a little bit more grittier, tougher, mixes things up a little bit better. I think she's not going to allow herself to be kind of pushed back and side kicked all night, pushed against the cage like we've seen Shauna Bannon do in the past. She's coming off of that win over Puja Tomar, where she was dropped very badly. I feel like a lot of other fighters weren't able to finish that fight, but Tomar just gave her the armbar, in my opinion. But I think Sam Hughes, she's she's got a better physical presence in the cage. She's not going to allow Shauna Bannon to push her back and dictate the pace. She's going to be putting a lot of volume out there, shooting takedowns, mixing it up on the feet, and going to be the aggressor pushing her back. So I think she'll get this one done. I think she's fought the better competition. I just think she's the overall tougher, grittier fighter, and I think she'll get this one done by decision. Moving on, Rinat Fakhretdinov takes on Andreas Gustafsson. I'm going to go with Gustafsson in this one. You know, Rinat Fakhretdinov, he's good everywhere. You know, he's a good wrestler. He's got power in the hands. Doesn't have the best cardio, though. He's looking to push guys back, get him into the clinch, get him to the ground. And that's exactly what Andreas Gustafsson does, but I think he does it better. I think he's just an absolute marauder. Very tough dude, getting guys in the clinch, landing a lot of strikes, just has a relentless pace. I was concerned about his chin and keeping his chin in the air, winging punches to get guys against the cage. I was afraid that in his last fight, his debut against Chaos Williams, I thought he was going to get just sparked out coming in like that, but he makes it work. He's tough, comes from a Greco-Roman background, those really heavy hands. I just think that Rinat Fakhretdinov, he's not going to be able to implement the game plan that he normally wants to do, which is to get guys to the ground. And even when he does get guys to the ground, he doesn't do a very good job of holding them there. And especially in this fight against Gustafsson, I don't think he's going to be able to do that either. I just think Andreas Gustafsson, he's going to be the one looking to push the wrestling, defending takedowns against Rinat. He's going to have the much better gas tank. We've seen Rinat Fakhretdinov struggle in previous fights against Nicholas Dalby, where he was desperately looking to get the fight to the ground, kind of starting to fizzle out in terms of his gas tank. And I just think Andreas Gustafsson is going to be able to nullify the things that Rinat Fakhretdinov does well and what he's trying to do. I think Rinat, you know, he's got power in the hands. He's got that 1-2. He dropped Dalby with it. He dropped Kevin Lee with it. But he usually has to be the one pushing forward to land that. He doesn't land very effective striking or really anything as he's moving backwards. And I think that's what's going to happen in this fight with Gustafsson. Just going to be kind of pushing forward the entire time, pushing at an insane pace, making him work. And I think he's eventually going to break at some point, or just be held against the cage, taking a beating en route to losing the decision. So I am going to go with Andreas Gustafsson to get this one done, probably by decision. Next up is Brad Tavares taking on Robert Bryczek. You know, both these guys are very well-rounded, old in the game, you know, mid-30s, later 30s, have a lot of experience. Bryczek, very boxing-heavy approach, you know, has good hooks, left hook, right hook that he throws, has power in the hands, you know, pretty fast hands. 17-6 record, so he's not bad. I don't think he's fought the competition that Brad Tavares has, and there's nothing that I think that he does extremely well that's going to be able to overwhelm and beat somebody like Brad Tavares. I think Tavares is going to be eating up his legs. Bryczek, he doesn't throw kicks. He doesn't check kicks very well. We saw that in his fight with Ior Potieria, who started to get the better of him on the feet. He started eating up his legs and even hurt him really badly with a nasty combination in round 3. Almost got him out of there. So I think Brad Tavares, he'll be able to keep it on the feet. Has really good takedown defense if Bryczek tries to get it to the ground. Bryczek is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but I think Tavares is just going to be too big for him. And he's going to be eating up his legs, beating him up on the feet, and just overall doing a little bit more on the feet. I think he's more well-rounded in terms of the striking game. Like I said, Bryczek's more of a boxer, whereas Tavares, he'll mix in the clinch, the knees, the elbows, the kicks. I think the kicks are going to be a big determining factor in this one, as well as just his UFC experience. He's been in the UFC for so long. Robert Bryczek just made his debut about a year and a half ago and lost to Ior Potieria. So not a good look for him. Potieria hasn't had the most success in the UFC. I think one of his few wins is Bryczek, as well as 40-year-old Mauricio Shogun Hua. So I'm going to go with Brad Tavares with just the better overall skill set, more experience, and I don't think there's anything that Bryczek's bringing to the table that he hasn't seen before. So I'm going to go with Brad Tavares, get this one done by decision, because he is a decision machine. Hasn't had a finish since April of 2018. So Brad Tavares by decision is the move there. Sam Patterson versus Trey Waters. So both these guys are usually the taller, rangier guys for their fights. Trey Waters 6'5" for the welterweight division, absolute weight bully. Sam Patterson 6'3", but he's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. I think Trey Waters, his strategy and his game plan really relies on his reach advantage, being able to kind of dictate the pace and the distance. He's used to guys having to make huge movements to get in close to him, to work into the pocket, to land strikes where he can kind of just sit back and counter. He'll kind of fish his chin out there really heavy on the lead leg, kind of coaxing guys to come in, and then he'll counter on the back foot. Whereas Sam Patterson, I think he's, everything being equal, which it is essentially in terms of physical attributes, he's the more crispy and technical striker. I think he's got better hands, better leg kicks. Trey Waters doesn't check leg kicks very well. He's very high level on the ground, demonstrated black belt, 7 submission wins. So I just think Trey Waters isn't going to be able to rely on just being the bigger, longer guy this time in his fights. He's usually fighting the smaller guys. And he hasn't fought the best competition either. Sam Patterson's fought a lot of really good guys. He's fought down to lightweight, so you could say he's got the lighter man's skill. Fought a lot of really good guys over at Fury. And I think he's been on a 3-fight winning streak by finish. 2 chokes, 1 knockout over Danny Barlow, which is extremely impressive. Danny Barlow is very good on the feet, got lots of power very fast, and he was able to deal with his hand speed, ate a few punches, and ended up getting the counter and getting the knockout. Before that, he lost to Yanal Ashmouz, just got caught on the feet, but was on an absolute tear, hadn't lost since 2017 since then, fighting some really good guys. So I think he's going to be a little bit too much for Trey Waters in this one, who's a little bit more inexperienced and overall just not as skilled as Sam Patterson. So I think Sam Patterson can get this one done by finish. Alex Sola taking on Rhys McKee. This fight would be much different in my opinion if the circumstances were different. Alex Sola taking this fight on very short notice and moving up in weight class. So he's normally a lightweight. I think he's fought at welterweight in the past, the same as Rhys McKee, but moving up in weight class to take on Rhys McKee in his UFC debut in front of his hometown, so a lot of pressure here. Rhys McKee's been in camp for 12 weeks, I think it was. He was originally training for Islam Dulatov, who's an absolute savage. So he was in the gym getting his rounds in, and getting his work in. And then after that was supposed to fight Carlston Harris, I think, and that fight fell out. So he's been prepping for this fight for 3 months. Alex Sola has been, he took it on a week's notice, up a weight class. He's going to be the smaller guy. I think he's 5'11". Yeah, he's 5'11". Rhys McKee's 6'2", 6'3". So going to be the longer, rangier guy. Really good wrestling, coming off of a good win over Daniel Frunza, where he got the knockout. He was taking shots in that fight, and that is a concern that Rhys McKee, he does take shots, he does take damage. He's got a decent chin for the most part, but it is concerning, given the range that he has, that he's not more defensively sound. But coming off of a split decision loss to Chidi and Jaquani, where nothing really happened, they kind of just held each other in the clinch. Lost to Angelusa before that. was just getting taken down a lot, and that's my concern in this one. Is Alex Sola is a very good wrestler. He's undefeated. He's got good hands. He's very well rounded. I think in different circumstances, like I said, if he had a full camp, he might be able to win this one just using his grappling and his gritty style. Mixes things up very well, but taking this on short notice against the bigger guy in Rhys McKee, who's been preparing, who's got arguably the better fights against the better competition. I think he gets this one done. Rhys McKee, his Achilles heel is the grappling and getting taken down. But I just think Alex Sola, I don't know if he's going to have the physicality, the strength against the bigger guy on short notice, have the cardio to be able to maintain a grappling heavy approach to beat somebody like Rhys McKee. So I'm going to go with McKee to get this one done by decision. Moving on to Marcin Tybura versus Ante Delija. So Marcin Tybura, the thing that I notice is if you go through his career is, he'll beat strikers who can't grapple, and then he'll beat grapplers who can't strike. So Mick Parkin, he's coming off of the win over Mick Parkin, which is a good fight back and forth, but before that, Saint-Denis just took advantage of his inability to grapple, beat him up on the ground. Lost to Sergey Spivak, got armbarred from mount, which is just crazy. Heavyweights transitioning to armbars off their back and catching him and winning. But before that, again, Tai Tuivasa can't grapple, took him down, choked him out, got knocked out by Tom Aspinall. Blagoy Ivanov, very close fight that he won, but Alexander Romanov, another guy, a grappler who can't really strike, at least back then, was able to win that fight. Whereas Ante Delija, he's very well-rounded, and I know these guys haven't had the best success coming over from other promotions as of late, but Ante Delija, man, good takedowns, really strong ground and pound, good control on the ground. We saw that in his fight with Renan Ferreira. He's a really good striker, has power in the hands, mixes in his striking with his takedowns very well. Tybura, he's got good boxing, kind of awkward at times, those kind of weird little kicks, but mixes things up very well. But usually he's looking for the clinch, looking for the takedowns to control on the ground, look for submissions. But I'm going to go Delija in this one. These guys already fought back in M1 Global like 10 years ago, and Delija was getting the better of him on the feet until he broke his leg, which is awful. If you haven't seen it, don't look it up. I watched it for you, but I don't know. I think Delija is just going to be a little bit too well-rounded for Marcin Tybura. I don't think he's going to allow Marcin Tybura to get ahead on the feet. I think he's going to be getting a lot of respect with the hands. I think he can offensively wrestle and defensively wrestle. Tybura tries to come in. I think he's the bigger, stronger guy. He's younger. I think he's like 4 years younger. I think he's going to be a little bit bigger as well, 2 inches taller, going to have an inch in reach. And I just think Ante's too well-rounded. I think he'll catch Tybura on the feet, be landing the better strikers, be landing the better strikes, defending his takedowns. I think Delija, I think he trains with Aspinall now too, so training with the best heavyweight in the world, still in his prime at 35 years old, making the transition over to the UFC maybe a little bit late, but does have a lot of really good experience coming in off of a win over Yorgan De Castro back in April. Before that, he lost by knockout to Valentin Moldavsky. He just didn't look himself in that fight, but there's no shame in losing to Moldavsky. He's world-class, very elite striker. Had a lot of wins before that against some good competition, Renan Ferreira, Matau Scheffel a couple times. So I'm going to go with Ante Delija to get this one done. I think he's good enough to beat somebody like Marcin Tybura, who's almost 40 years old and been kind of 50-50 as of late. So I would give the experience to Tybura, beating Spivaks, fighting Mick Parkin, Tai Tuivasa, Aspinall. Fought a lot of really good guys, but I'm gonna go with Delija to get this one done. Oumar C versus Brendson Ribeiro. Oumar C, I'm not convinced by this guy yet. Especially after his last fight against Alonzo Minifield, just doesn't really have anything for you on the feet. If he can't get you to the ground, it's going to be a very kind of lackluster performance on his end, like we saw. Big guy for the division, but just kind of boring. Has good takedowns, checks kicks well. I just don't think he's got the best striking. He does have strong wrestling entries. Mixes up his striking into his takedowns very good. Has really good positional control on the ground. He's beaten a lot of lower level guys in his career so far. And like I said, got fraud checked by Alonzo Minifield. But beating Da Woon Jung, Tuco Tokos, like I don't really rate these wins. And taking on somebody like Brendson Ribeiro, who's got a lot of power on the feet, he can put you out. Good kicks, those kind of looping punches at times, but jiu-jitsu black belt as well, has a lot of skill on the ground. Doesn't have the best takedown defense though, which is the big thing that I'm looking at in this fight. Is I don't think that Brendson Ribeiro has the takedown defense to kind of keep it on the feet, where he can win and maybe touch up Oumar C. He showed decent defensive wrestling and offensive wrestling against Gadzia Zulov in that fight, but I just don't trust him in this point to be able to keep it on the feet and land the better strikes. I think that Oumar C is eventually going to get his takedowns. I think he's going to be the bigger, stronger guy. Going to have the reach advantage on the feet as well. I think he's just going to kind of wet blanket Brendson Ribeiro on this one, who, he is dangerous on the feet. He can catch submissions like we saw, but like we saw in the DR Nurgazai fight. But, fighting on the feet with Kyle Machado to a split decision, recently coming in off of a knockout over Azamat Murzakanov, was knocked out by Mingyang Zhang before that. He's just too 50-50 for me. The last finish on the feet he had was against Bruno Lopez, where he was a huge underdog going into that one, but got that finish. But outside of that, just been kind of 50-50. Can't trust his takedown defense against a guy like Oumar C, who's going to be looking to desperately get it to the ground. So I'm going to go with Oumar C, Sai, however you say it, to get this one done by takedowns and control en route to a decision win. William Gomis taking on Robert Ruchała. William Gomis is, he's very technical striker, southpaw, likes to kind of dance along the cage on the back foot, look for his counters, showing pretty good takedown defense along the cage, like 73%. Doesn't have the most damage potential and finishing potential on the feet, but he also doesn't take a lot of damage as well. Just kind of a decision merchant looking to outpoint guys and work off the back foot, which at times isn't a good look for him, like in the Hyder Emil fight, where you can argue that he's losing the fight just because he's constantly on the back foot and on the defensive in the judges' eyes. But Robert Ruchała making his UFC debut, 11-1. I think he was the champ over in KSW. Is that this guy? Yes, he's the champ over at KSW, but I don't know. I thought this guy'd be better at being 11-1 coming over to the UFC, but I just think he's kind of awkward, kind of sloppy at times with his striking, like bad takedown defense or takedown attempts, throwing kicks, falling on his butt, kind of getting pressed back against the cage. Does do a decent job of controlling guys against the cage, which could be big in this one against William Gomis, who kind of puts himself in those positions on purpose. But Ruchała, he just seems kind of fragile, getting dropped on the regional scene, getting his legs beat up. He's one of those guys that kind of visibly shows pain or visibly shows that he's hurt if he's taking big shots or if he's, eating big kicks, covering up and cowering at times. His last loss against Saladin Parnassi, he was just kind of cowering and covering up on the ground. Just wasn't a great look, but, somehow he's still effective, frauding his way to some of these wins, it seems like. And I shouldn't even say frauding, because some of these guys are good. They got good records. I just don't understand how he's getting these wins. And I feel like, William Gomis is just going to be a little bit better everywhere. Going to be a little bit more technical. He's had the experience in the UFC. He's fought decent competition as of late. So, going to go with William Gomis to get this one done. Fought in the UFC for a while now, fighting in front of the hometown crowd. Was on an absolute roll before he ran into a Hyder Emil in a fight. You could argue he won, but decent favorite in this one at -230. So I'm going to go with William Gomis to keep it on the feet, defend the takedown, stay safe in the clinch, circle off, land the better shots, just do a little bit more in terms of volume and striking to get a decision win. Patricio Pitbull takes on Losene Keita. Losene Keita, 16-1. I think his only loss was due to like a foot injury or something on the regional scene, but been a pro since he's like 21 years old. Just absolute savage on the feet, vicious striker, very aggressive style, throwing with really bad intentions. Going to be the bigger guy at 5'9" to Patricio Pitbull's 5'6". I'm assuming he's going to have the reach advantage, but for some reason nobody on the internet knows what Losene Keita's reach is. 69% takedown defense though, which is going to be a concern in this one. I think Pitbull, he's very good on the ground, world-class jiu-jitsu, really good wrestling. I think that's going to be his pathway to victory in this one against the bigger, stronger, younger, more powerful guys to look to get to the ground. But I'm going to go with Losene Keita in this one. You know, I think Pitbull, he just takes a little bit too long to get out of first gear. He's very patient, looking for his precise shots, has a lot of faith in his kind of his one-shot power at times, and that allows guys to kind of get out in front of him in terms of volume. And I think that's what's going to happen this one. Losene Keita is just going to kind of snowball. Going to have the snowball effect over Patricio Pitbull, who has taken a lot of damage in the last few fights. Dropped by Yair, dropped by Jeremy Kennedy. He's got, 45? This will be his 46th fight. Taking a lot of damage in his career, a lot of tread on the tires. I just think Keita is going to put a lot of volume out there, kind of overwhelm him, keep him on the back foot to where he can't shoot his takedowns. He can push a high pace for 3 rounds, done it several times before. So I could see a world where Pitbull is able to kind of handle the striking of Losene Keita, maybe lose the first round and then take over rounds 2 and 3 with his grappling. But I'm going to go with Losene Keita. It says a lot that they're giving him somebody like Patricio Pitbull in his UFC debut. But again, 16-1. He's fought a lot of really good guys over in, I think it's the Octagon promotion. Yeah, the Octagon promotion, which is a really good promotion over in Europe. Fought some guys with really good records, 21-8, 12-1, 16-1, 17-4, 10-2, 10-2. So fighting, not slouches overseas, a lot of finishes, some decisions as well. So you know that he can push a high pace with the ferocious fighting style that he's putting out there. A lot of those guys kind of fizzle out and can't really continue that type of strategy for a full fight, but he obviously can, and he's on a 5-fight winning streak heading into this one. So I think he'll get this one done over Patricio Pitbull, who's 38 years old. Losene Keita is only 27 years old, not even in his prime yet. So I think he's got a lot of potential. I think he'll be able to get this one done over Pitbull. Fares Ziam takes on Fakhretdinov. You know, Fares Ziam, very tall for the division. Really good striker, uses his length very well. Good kicks, straight punches and combos. You know, he's got decent takedown defense. I don't know if I'm convinced by Fares Ziam yet. You know, he's got some decent wins. He was choked out by Terrence McKinney though back in the day, lost to Dom Madge, but he's got wins over Michael Figlack, Jai Herbert, Claudio Puelas. You can argue he lost that. Matt Frivola knockout. Coming off of a win over Mike Davis, but Mike Davis was hurt in that fight, pulling guards. I don't think that's a legit win over somebody as good as Mike Davis. So I'm just not very convinced by Fares Ziam just yet. And I think Fakhretdinov is a dark horse. I think he's a huge underdog going into this one, but I think his leg kicks are just going to be a little bit too much for Fares Ziam, who likes to use his movement and his distance advantage over guys, and I think Khaway's going to be able to kind of nullify that with his leg kicks, kind of batter his legs to where he's not able to move so well, not able to kind of maintain the distance. It only took him like 5 leg kicks in his fight against Guram Kutataladze to just kind of completely nullify that leg to where he could barely move. So I think Khaway's going to be ripping calf kicks in this one. He's very well rounded, has good hands as well, good chin, jiu-jitsu black belt, Muay Thai black belt, very defensively sound, doesn't take a lot of damage. I don't think that Fares is going to be able to hold him up against the cage and control him there as well. So he was kind of out wrestled in this fight with Mark Jacasey, but the fact that somebody like Mark Jacasey, who's such a high level striker, had to resort to grappling him for the entire fight and squeaking out a split decision has a, you know, that's a feather in the cap for Fakhretdinov, and just kind of shows how high level and dangerous he is on the feet. So you know, Khaway, he's got the kicks, but he's also very fast, has really good combinations that he extends. Better grappler. I think he'll be able to land the better kicks against Ziam, kind of nullify the distance coming, or the volume coming his way, and making Ziam just a little bit more stationary than he wants to be. And I think that's just going to kind of snowball as the fight progresses. You know, the less that he's able to move, the more kicks he's going to be eating, the more strikes to the head he's going to be eating. And I think Khaway gets this one done as a plus 270 underdog. Modestas Bukauskas takes on Paul Craig. You know, the strategy's out there to beat Paul Craig. It's keep it on the feet, don't go to the ground, beat him up on the feet, you know. And I think Modestas Bukauskas, I think he's a very good striker. He's huge for 205. I think he's got really good leg kicks, really good punches, solid movement, solid speed, solid power. He's aggressive, pushes in. I just think he's going to be a little bit too much for Paul Craig. I think he's better on the feet, going to be beating up his legs, pushing him back. Paul Craig is, I think this is his second fight since moving back up to light heavyweight. Before that was against Rodolfo Bialato. So, and just an awful dramatic display of theater. But I think Paul Craig, he's got to get it to the ground in order to win. He's just not the best striker. He's kind of lost on the feet at times, doesn't have the best reaction times to strikes. We saw that against Kyle Borralho, who's going to be much smaller than Modestas Bukauskas, so I just think Bukauskas is going to be kind of piece him up on the feet, not really entertaining the ground. If Paul Craig looks to pull guard or kind of drag him to the ground, I think that Bukauskas has pretty good takedown defense, and I don't see Paul Craig as the most offensive wrestler who's, shooting D1 double legs to get guys to the ground. He kind of really only getting guys to the ground if he's pulling guard or, able to kind of get him in the clinch and drag him to the ground, or if he gets dropped and somebody's dumb enough to go onto the ground and play with him there. So I'm going to go with Modestas Bukauskas. I think he can get the finish over Paul Craig on the feet. Paul Craig's been KO'd like 5 times, I think, in the past. So I'm going to go with Modestas Bukauskas, defend the takedowns, beat him up on the feet, and get the finish. Bolaji Oki taking on Mason Jones. Bolaji Oki, good pressure on the feet, has power, feints well, mixes up his strikes very well, good body shots, good jabs, throws with bad intentions, looking to finish fights, but I just don't think he's got the striking or the overall skill set to beat somebody like Mason Jones, who's very dynamic on the feet, a lot of finishing potential. I think he's like a jiu-jitsu and judo black belt, I believe. So fought the better competition, only 2 losses against really good guys in the UFC. I think it's Ludovic Klein and Mike Davis. He was cut, went back to Cage Warriors, now came back, had a really good performance over a crafty vet in Jeremy Stevens. So I think Mason Jones is just levels above Bolaji Oki everywhere. Fought the better competition, much more tested, more skilled. Oki just kind of relies on his power on the feet. I don't think there's really anything special to him, kind of a 1-2 merchant, whereas Mason Jones mixes things up with his kicks, his strikes. I just think he's got more weapons. He's more technical. Been doing it since he was like 6 years old. So I think Mason Jones, I think he's got a lot of potential at lightweight, future. Well, he's a former Cage Warriors two weight class champion. I think he's going to be a future title contender at lightweight, getting several more wins, and I think he'll be in the title picture for sure. But I just think he'll win this fight wherever it goes. I think he can get Bolaji Oki to the ground. He had 8 takedowns in his last 2 fights against David Onama, and I think it was Jeremy Stevens were the fights where he had 8 takedowns against those guys. And David Onama has been on a roll himself as of late, and he looked really good against him. Yeah, David Onama on a 4-fight winning streak. So I think Mason Jones can beat him on the feet. I think he can take him to the ground and submit him. We saw Bolaji Oki get choked out by Chris Duncan in that fight. Kind of just gave him his neck for the guillotine choke. So I'm gonna go with Mason Jones. I think he should be a much bigger favorite than -160. Extreme value in that pick, but I think Mason Jones gets this one done. Benoit Saint-Denis takes on Mauricio Hufy in the co-main event. Mauricio Hufy, very Conor McGregor-esque, very fast, dynamic striker, really strong piston of a jab, nasty calf kicks, just has really good instincts, really good distance management. He's just very fluid, will switch stances, throw a lot of different techniques, moves just out of the way of strikes, and comes in and counters guys. So very hard to find, really good defense. I think he's been KO'd once in his career against Manuel Sousa, who I think fought on Dana White's Contender Series last week and won. So a lot of potential for Mauricio Hufy. The one thing I would say is we don't know where his grappling lands, and that's the thing with Benoit Saint-Denis. I could see a world where Benoit Saint-Denis crashes forward, gets the clinch, gets him to the ground, and kind of beats him up there and kind of sees what he's got on the ground, because we haven't really seen anything yet. And going up against Benoit Saint-Denis isn't really somebody that you want to have on top of you if you don't have top tier wrestling defense or jiu-jitsu or scrambles to get back up to your feet, because Benoit Saint-Denis is just a savage, judo black belt, jiu-jitsu brown belt, kind of hittable on the feet though. He loves to make it gritty, loves to push forward very aggressively, looking to land hands, get you in the clinch, but he takes a lot of damage en route to finding those positions. Doesn't move his head well, doesn't have the best defense as he's moving forward, just kind of relies a lot on his chin to push guys back and get to the clinch and get to the ground. And I feel like he's going to get caught in this one against Mauricio Hufy coming in with his head high. I think Hufy's got very good movement, very good distance management to where he's going to be able to kind of stay safe and punish Benoit Saint-Denis as he comes forward. BSD, he doesn't check leg kicks very well either. I think Hoofy's going to be eating up his legs, making it even harder for him to kind of push forward. Benoit Saint-Denis, like I said, he's tough. He relies on his chin a lot, but he's taken a lot of damage in the LSJU Zaleski fight. He took that on short notice, moving up a weight class for his UFC debut, but you could have stopped that fight several times with just the amount of damage he was taking. He was knocked out by Dustin Poirier, dropped twice in that fight, then eventually put out cold, took tons of damage by Renato Moicano on the ground. So been taking a lot of damage as of late and shown that his chin can be cracked. And I think that's what's going to happen in this fight. I think Hoofy's going to be moving on the back foot and eventually catching Benoit Saint-Denis as he looks to crash forward and getting him out of there and KOing him. I can see Benoit Saint-Denis getting him to the ground and just kind of grinding him out, beating him up, and eventually finding a submission. But I don't know. Hoofy, he's in the Fighting Nerds. He's just got that aura. He's got that it factor coming in off of that knockout over Bobby Green in that fight. Just the guys looked on a different level as of late, so it's hard to pick against him until somebody gives me a reason to. So I'm going to go with Mauricio Hoofy. I think he'll catch Benoit Saint-Denis coming in and get the KO. To the main event, Nassourdine Imavov versus Caio Borralho. This is an extremely close fight. You know, both of these guys, very well-rounded, good everywhere, good strikers, good on the ground. I would give the jiu-jitsu advantage to Caio Borralho, just to, pure statistics and on paper. I think he's the better jiu-jitsu guy, but Nassourdine Imavov got very good scrambles, very good ground and pound, decent takedown defense. He usually, like in that Brendan Allen fight, he got taken down to control, but after that, he was able to defend the takedowns and just kind of dominate on the ground. So, both these guys very good strikers. Caio Borralho likes to take the center of the octagon. Same with Nassourdine Imavov. He's one of those guys who's got very good presence in the cage, doesn't allow guys to really bully him or push him back. So I'm looking forward to this fight. I think it can go either way, but I am going to pick Nassourdine Imavov plus 110, Caio minus 135. So Caio is the small favorite, but Imavov been boxing since a very young age, born in Dagestan and then moved to France, so he's just born with natural wrestling ability, you could say. But like I said, he's just hard to bully, and I don't think that Caio Borralho is going to be able to get the respect that he needs to on the feet and kind of push him back against the cage. Imavov holds his ground very well. He's got great composure. He's very relaxed, has really good defense, evasive movement. I don't see him taking a lot of damage from Caio Borralho. Just maintains his range very well, has really fast hands. He's very crafty on the feet, good counters, good straight boxing, straight 1-2s. Good use of the teep kicks to keep his range. One concern is he doesn't check leg kicks very well. I know Caio Borralho can really batter guys' legs, so I think that's definitely a concern, but he has been taken down in the past as well. That was earlier in his career. As of late, he's shown much better takedown defense, 78%. So I don't know. I think Imavov is going to get this one done against Caio Borralho, who, again, very good striker, fights out of the Fighting Nerds gym, has a lot of credentials, Muay Thai black belt, Judo brown belt, Jiu-Jitsu black belt, really good takedown defense, decent entries, has a lot of different tools on the feet in terms of knees, elbows, kicks. Again, very well rounded. But I'm going to go with Imavov just because Caio, he was getting pressed back in his fight against Mikhail Chachek before he started to get his takedowns. And I think Imavov does really good at pushing guys back and not allowing himself to be pushed back at all. He can be pushed into the cage at times, but he's shown to be able to kind of defend against that and circle off. So I think Imavov is just going to be getting out first in the striking department, not allowing Caio to get his takedowns, not allowing him to push forward. And I think that he'll be able to stay upright, and I think if he can stay upright for this entire fight, I think Imavov is going to be crafty enough and fast enough to squeak out rounds and to land the better strikes against Caio Borralho. I just think Imavov, he's the more fluid striker. He's more confident, has more aura in the cage, able to kind of has more of a presence, I would say. I think he has better defense, takes less damage on the feet. And I think he'll be the one kind of pushing forward, not allowing Caio to get out ahead, to take the center of the octagon and be kind of pushing him back against the cage. So I can see a scenario where Caio does kind of get his takedowns and mixing his grappling a little bit more to kind of tax the gas tank of Imavov. If there is one knock on him, he can be gassed at times, or seems like he's kind of tuckering out and starting to get tired. But that was against Sean Strickland. That was in a lot of his fights earlier in his career where he was kind of having to grapple a lot more on the ground. And ever since he's kind of got a little bit more experience, had more 5-round experience, learned to defend the takedowns a little bit better, I think his gas tank has drastically improved. So I think also a big thing is Imavov. He's already had like 4 main events, been training for 4 main events, whereas Kaio's only had 1. He looked good in the one that he did have against Jared Cannonier, but Imavov has had more experience. I think he knows how to fight for 5 rounds, maintain that gas tank, and just do enough to win rounds. He's fighting at home in front of his hometown crowd. He fought just 6 months ago. Kyle Borralho fought over a year ago, so he's the fresher guy in terms of being in the cage. So I'm going to go with Imavov as a small underdog to get this one done. Maybe he drops a few rounds. Maybe he gets taken down at times, but I think he'll just be a little bit better to edge out rounds against Kyle Borralho to get this one done by decision. So thanks for watching. If you're still here, appreciate the comments, the feedback I've been getting from you guys. Let me know what you guys think about my picks. And again, if you're looking for a little bit more insight into the fighters, into how they match up with each other, and kind of my thought process behind why I'm picking them, check out my channel. I got videos for each of these fights. So again, appreciate you watching. Have a good one. Thanks.